Hey guys, welcome back to Seller Sessions. Joining me today on the show is Adam Jago. This is a next installment of the Open Brands series where we discuss with the entrepreneur their brand in the open and some of the issues they've had along the ways, the success, etc., etc. So welcome to the show, Adam. How are you doing?
Great, thanks. Thanks for having me, Danny.
You're more than welcome. So let's start off with two very important questions. One, you've gone into clothing, which most Amazon sellers don't want that smoke. And two, it's women's clothing. So, which is very interesting. Can you break it down for me? What made you decide on both of those factors?
Sure. Right. Why we started selling clothing on Amazon is a bit of a story. Starting off with, we were originally selling shoes, ladies' shoes, on a market stall here in Leicester. And at that time, somebody basically told us, you need to start selling clothing on eBay. Now, we knew a little bit about eBay, but we were like, why clothing? And it was because of the fact that big brands like ASOS and Boohoo were starting to lift off quite heavily. So we're like, okay, what do we do? This is, you've got loads of local manufacturers, go and knock on their doors. So off we went, knocking on these doors. The only thing that these manufacturers actually made was women's clothing. It's a very rare thing to find a manufacturer that makes men's clothing because the demand for women's clothing is a lot more higher than men's.
Yeah.
So when we go into these factories, I'll be honest with you, I didn't have a clue what I was looking at. Stuff was coming off the manufacturing and it was like literally just picking up these dresses and I'm like, what the hell is this?
Yeah.
My partner though, we're still together in business, he's a lot more fashionable than me. He just started picking up, this is this kind of dress, and this is this kind of dress, and this is a skirt. Okay, fine, fair enough, but it's this type of skirt. And I was like, okay, cool, let's go with it.
Yeah, it's funny. Did you ever ask him how he knows all these different style dresses?
Yeah, I did, raise a couple of eyebrows. How the bloody hell do you know that? And he goes, well, you just know. That was his answer. And I was like, no, you don't.
Yeah.
But off we went. So we came back to our house. We scrapped having the market stall. We were running two eBay accounts. So we were selling shoes on one account, and then we were selling clothing on another. And it literally just shot through the roof. You were starting to see mountains of parcels being sent out by Royal Mail daily. We had to recruit more people just to help with the picking and packing. And it was busy as heck. Now, we always had an Amazon account. We never did anything with it. So in that time, I thought, you know what, we could just stick some of these products up on, make some listings, and going back probably 2016 at the time. So popped these listings on, didn't think nothing of it. Got a couple of sales, but we were just so focused on the volume that was coming from eBay, we couldn't think of anything else in that time. In between that, I got bright ideas and I said, well, if we're going to manufacture this much, we might as well create a website and a whole brand. So we went through that whole process of starting up a fast fashion brand, built a website, started social, built a studio in the back of the warehouse. So models were coming in and out quite frequently, and all that noise was starting to happen. The Amazon story is obviously a bit of an interesting one because then mid 2017, around 2018, out of nowhere, our eBay just went from like, say, doing $2,000 a day to about £300. And we still till today don't have the answer why that happened. Just sales just stopped. So we're scratching our heads now, thinking, oh, bugger, we've got all these bills to pay, we've got no money coming in. And I thought, hang on a second, I've got this Amazon account, let's have a look at it. So in you go into Seller Central, found the listings that we did. Turned out that in all that time, those listings that I had put up the year before, or 18 months before, had been hijacked by dozens of other sellers. And it had a high review count, We didn't know what a BSR was then, but at the time it was actually pretty low. So these guys were doing some serious volume, but they were selling at a price lower than what we were getting it made for. So we're like, okay, let's look into this FBA thing. So I started grabbing stock from the back, putting labels, getting the girls to help me out, sending boxes out. Stock started going into Prime. Sat on a YouTube video for about 2 hours. I think my first listing took me all day. I remember that on Amazon because it had to be done properly. And stock started going into Prime and started selling. So we're like, all right, how do we get these listings back? And then we had to apply for a trademark, which was easy to do. And we handed over the trademark to Amazon. It kicked all the hijackers off. And it was just like the floodgates open. Revenue just started flooding through. And at that point, we were like, right, sod everything else. Let's have a look at this. So we started putting more and more listings because we had so much product on the floor. Then from there, I want to say 2019 is when Amazon offered free accountancy services if you were to go pan-EU and get VAT registered across European countries. Again, this is all new news to us because we didn't know about the world of Amazon like we do now. So we applied for VAT registration in those countries. We started to get listings translated by a company in Germany for Germany, France, Italy, Spain, a bit of Netherlands, I think. And then that started to create more sales. So we were basically just chucking stock into FBA. Amazon was just handling it all. And revenues just shooting through the roof. In fact, we were starting to see numbers that we'd never seen before. So we thought that was it. Like, right.
You're off to the races, yeah.
Yeah, basically. What we didn't know is, I think the biggest rabbit hole we were going into was the world of Amazon. 2020 early, we're probably seeing like high six and low seven figures across the board. So it's not just off one marketplace. Still running a website as well at the same time. And I've gone to an event that the Department of International Trade gave us a free ticket for in London called Retail Without Borders. And I got bored of listening to a lot of speakers and so on, walking around. And then I sat in a room and I've heard someone speak, and I'm like, this fella's making sense. Who is this person? Grabbed the book off the table, opened it up, got that person's name, and had a look on LinkedIn. Do you know who that person was?
No.
You.
I did speak there once. I was on a panel, but I had no idea this is where the story's going. I knew that we met. We've been to probably 24 events or a dozen events together, but I didn't know that was where that come from. That would have been March or January 2020. Yeah. I remember that. I remember doing that event. Yeah. So no, I honestly didn't know that. Honestly. So go on.
Sorry, I was going to say before that, what happened was we had a transition between inventory management systems, and I actually went on a rampage to try and push into every marketplace as possible. That's why I came to that event. We signed up with a platform called Linworks, and that allowed us to open up channels. By the time we've got to Retail Without Borders at 2020, we're selling on about 14, 15 different platforms. When COVID kicked in, it was absolute manic. We just couldn't get
in a good way. In a good way. Yeah.
Because everything was just selling. So that's the story so far. There's still probably a lot more to tell.
I mean, we'll break out and go into detail. Firstly, what's the name of the brand, as it's an open brand series? And what is the women's clothing that you do sell? I know you mentioned dresses.
Yeah, cool. So main one is called Retech UK. It's not relevant to clothing. simply because we had to go down the route of getting the trademark for the Amazon account and keep hijackers off. For some reason, it's just worked. That's been our best performing brand. The second one, called Moda More, is still fast fashion. It was directed more towards seasonal products in the sense where if a particular print comes in for that season, we would basically stock it, and that's where the model shoots and everything was happening, where the noise was happening. That did okay for a little while, in the sense where I think 2018, 2019, somewhere along the lines, it made that much noise. Got a lot of stories in between that to tell, but we even got approached by Debenhams at one stage to stock the brand in their stores. But in the end, we didn't go ahead with it because the demand was just ridiculous. But again, I can go into more detail with that later. We hold another 2 more brands for kids' clothing. So it's Just Juniors and Jammy Juniors as well. Very, very small. It's got a lid on it. Chump change, you might just call it. It's just there just to keep things spinning.
And so what's your, obviously you found the pocket. I mean, one, you got all the variations, and then how are you mitigating the returns as well? Because what's really interesting to me, right, and unless this is the case, you've got 2 men running a women's clothing brand, which is great, but to get that to 7 figures and be a clothing and be guys doing women's clothing, that's pretty good in terms of being close to the beat, especially as seasons move. So you've got, not only you've got to get the stock, you've got to get the returns, and the speed of which it goes out of season. So either you're discounting or you're destroying the stock. I mean, how does that work for you guys as well for margin and stuff?
Yeah, it's a complex process. Simplest form I can probably try to break it down with is the Amazon market that we found wasn't exactly fast fashion. So in the sense where, and we've tested it and failed on that sense. So let's just say there's been a Versace type of print that's gone down into the high street stores, right? And everyone's copied it. Everyone's selling that. It's all over the fast fashion. It's all over the stores. And naturally, you're going to take that print and put it up if you've got a platform to sell on. That doesn't work on Amazon. You might get a very quick shoot that might sell out for about a week or so. And then after that, it will just die off. So we learned the hard way not to bring in fashionable prints, but instead look at, and I'm saying this with the most respect ever, boring looking clothes. They sell.
Or should we use a better word? Neutral.
Yeah, right.
Neutral. We'll go with neutral. Yeah,
that's right. Stuff that's always going to be worn. So, for example, one of our best sellers is a cardigan, right? It's a plain product. It's a very, it takes up a lot of fabric. It's pretty long. It does well in the summer, and it does okay in the winter because it's not a thick cardigan, right? This is something that we always stock. When it comes to seasons and the switch over, right now we've already sent off the order for winter for cotton jumpers. So with it being the 5th of July today, I feel like we're still about a week behind. So we're going to push the production to be here for the mid of August before this weather starts to turn. This is just based on experience now, of years doing it. And we've got years of data to know that when there's going to be an uplift and when there's going to be a down. So we order stock well in advance. So any summer stuff will come August, there'll just be a stock on that. Whatever stock's left over, we'll sell. You've made your money. Whatever's left over, you're going to put it onto sell so you can just clear it and it's gone. So it's a case of, on Amazon sense, it's a case of using the data consistently. You will get spikes. Best example, last year's heat wave. We weren't expecting it. Then it came. We reached 40 degrees in heat. Myself and Zully were sat here, and we just saw sales coming through and through and through. All the summer stuff was literally just flying. We just couldn't get enough stock, you know. So you will get spikes, but what we're going to look for is an even pain. In regards to returns, that is a nightmare. That's a trick. So if you're doing picking and packing here locally, you're going to get your returns back. That's fine. Then we've got to open up each packet in order to be able to have a look at the product. Has it been abused? You're going to get that as well.
Yeah.
You're going to find cat hair, dog hair.
And been worn for a month before the window closes, or 3.5 weeks, etc.
Stinks of perfume. You can't sell that again. You've got to write that off. That goes to charity. Then you've got resellable. So based on data right now, we usually see about 80% resellable COGS. So 80% of stock that does come back as returns can then also be resold. 20% usually gets written off. What you've got to work at is you'll write that off in your margin, and you'll basically be left with, shall we say, X amount, and that's usually more than enough, because if you've gone scale, that X amount could be however you want to actually put it in, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So mainly, where are you manufacturing? Mainly in Europe. You're not doing anything in China, or?
No, we did take a trip to China. Thanks to my good friend Baptiste, who inspired us to go this year. China's not a place for clothing, I think, at the moment, because for clothing, you're going to look at...
It is in phase... You've got phase 3, but maybe not the right clothing to fit your brand,
Yeah. There are manufacturers out there. I mean, best example is there's a big brand called Shein. It's literally taken over the world. And all their manufacturing is done in China. And their process is amazing. The way they launch, they will chuck out 600 pictures a day, and they'll wait for 200 orders. Well, they used to do this, and then they'll put it through a manufacturing process. Whereas in our case, it's the reverse. You manufacture first, then sell. And some of the factories that do cater for that brand have told us that they can do small orders with us as well. But then when you're talking about the lead time as well, and the fact that we're here in the UK, it just doesn't make sense. Where it's like we do a lot of manufacturing in Turkey, and we've had what you might call a fast track van, your own van that you pay extra for, and you can get your goods within 7 days right here on the doorstep. In comparison to waiting for a shipment by sea from China to get here, you've got to work so fast, like so far in advance.
Exactly.
It just doesn't make sense, to be honest with you.
So going back to the clothing again, you said your staples, we call them neutrals, right? Like, I think leggings is a big seller for you as well, isn't it? And you've got the cardigans. Is it because obviously ladies can put that with pretty much any outfit they want to go with, depending on what the event is, or whether it's, daytime, home, etc. They become the staples in terms of what you're saying for, is that they can augment with other clothing of their choice, hence why they become more consistent.
Yeah, exactly that. I'm a big believer of what can you sell, and I'm talking about any product, so it could be clothing, it doesn't have to be clothing. How can you sell this, right? So let's just say a water bottle or a brick or something of the sort. If you actually stopped everything and wrote down 50 different ways of how a product can be sold, you can then use that in regards to sales. The tools that we've got nowadays, that allows you to actually even, bring up the different types of search volume and search history that there will be. Best example, we've got a summery dress, and I asked the VA yesterday in order to do a search on Helium 10. Number one is summer dress, second one, beach dress, strappy dress, long dress, and so on. So therefore, it's not a case of, okay, right, we've got this printing because this influencer's worn it, right? And we're going to slap that on Amazon. Not going to work. Right, let's get a neutral staple garment, a t-shirt, a vest, leggings, as you said, whatever it is, lay it out. Okay, what else can it be worn for? So with leggings, it can be worn day to day, it can be worn for the gym, for yoga, running, etc. And then eventually you're basically putting those components into your listing and seeing which way. I'm so sorry about that. And seeing which avenue will sell the best for you. So chuck it out there. Let's see what you get. Right, okay, all of a sudden we're getting traction from the yoga crowd. Okay, let's move that over there now, right? Let's put it into that basket for so on. I could go on for days about this.
So your key sellers is, like, as you said, you've got the staples that sell well. And going back to the returns and stuff, I take it you don't sell underwear, because that would be, especially on bottoms and stuff. As far as I'm aware, they can't really. They're just straight away in the bin. So do you stay away from things like underwear?
Yeah, in the sense we've got we stock bodysuits, right? So it's like a leotard.
Okay. Yeah.
Right. That's a staple garment. Can be worn in the summer, can be worn in the winter, right?
Yeah. So moving on, in terms of launches and stuff, how does that work for you? Do you do in seasonal launches? And the second part of that question, do you have a good Q4 like people that are doing gifts or in sports and outdoors, or or more like kitchen, etc.? Or you mentioned spikes. So do you have a big build to Q4? And that's your best part of the year? Or does your spikes not only come from different points in a year, are they more sporadic?
Yeah. Okay. So, regards to spikes, I'd say the first spike we probably have is in February at the start of the year. And that's because we sell a little bit of kids stuff, and that's for World Book Day. So that goes a little bit mental. We then sort of hover about until the summer comes, because what happens is when you're in mid-season, so the March and April time, nobody knows whether they want to be cold or whether they are cold or they're warm. So you have like a sort of plateau, and then come May onwards, the lift up starts to happen. Summer range goes through, lasts 3 to 4 months, that dies off. September's always a sort of flat line. October is actually our main one.
That's interesting. Why would be October? Because the season of the clothing?
Halloween.
Oh, Halloween. Okay.
Halloween's getting more and more busier every year.
But do you do Halloween products, or is it because they're putting some of your clothing together as part of it, like leggings, or what is it? What causes that?
Yeah, exactly that. So, best example, we have an orange jumper, and the search term for that is Velma. If anybody wants to look it up out there, from Scooby-Doo. So that fits in perfectly. Then we've got some bodysuits that can be worn as cat suits as well.
Right, got you.
So what we do is we hit those terms and we hit them really hard. Videos are done for that as well. That's just a constant thing for us every year now. The volumes do spike high right up to the end of October. And then November, December, generally shopping's high. We don't do Black Friday deals. We don't do Christmas deals, right? Because the traffic's coming through. Even on Prime Day, we're not going to do an offer. We never have done, because the traffic's just going to come through. We don't have, shall we say, trinkets. It's the everyday thing. So what our biggest challenge in Q4 is to ensure that our advertising spend doesn't run away with us. We control the tag costs. Control that tag cost in order to ensure that a very good margin comes through all the way up to the end of December. Christmas time, I think mid-December we start to drop off. And then we'll pick back up after Boxing Day, and then we'll have a good January usually as well, which is strange.
No, interesting. And in terms of just sliding off of Amazon for a moment, you've got your own store as well. You've got like what, Shopify?
Yeah, two
Yeah.
Shopify sites. Yeah.
Okay. So how do they kind of perform in comparison to your revenue on Amazon?
Amazon is still our main revenue driver.
Yeah.
What with the websites, a lot of work is involved in the sense.
Yeah.
Should we say different types of e-com work? You're talking email marketing, Facebook ads, influencers, all that. You've got to do a lot of noise. Generally, we probably see maybe only about 10% of revenue, if that, coming off the website in comparison to what we do on Amazon. I mean, the products are completely different, but we're at a stage now where it's like, okay, over the past 2 or 3 years, our focus has just now sort of headed towards Amazon rather than it being on a website itself. Anyone ever says build a website and the products will sell were daft, because the amount of actual work goes into it. In fact, in all e-com platforms, the amount of work that goes into it is actually unbelievable.
It's a huge amount, and this is why most people fail. They go on a marketplace, which is ready-made traffic. You just got to deliver the product based on the quality, search term, price, the usual stuff. Whereas with your own website, you've got to bring the traffic, and qualified traffic costs money. And if you're selling products that are not, you can work off long-term value of the customer, etc. But if it's not a consumable, it's going to be even harder, because each sale is paid for once. There's no long tail in there in terms of repeat custom. So that makes it even harder. And I'm assuming clothing with the returns on your site must be quite difficult to manage as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's see. In the UK, our returns percentage is about 10 to 15%.
Okay.
On an e-com website in the UK, you're probably looking at about 35.
Jeez.
That's the difference in the two. Yeah.
That's interesting. Why would that be? I suppose because Amazon make it really easy, but why would the website be higher?
Depends on. Yeah, I mean, in our experience, because the Amazon stuff is, shall we say, plain day-to-day stuff,
right?
Where websites are more, shall we say, fashionable.
Yeah.
Fast fashion is also quick to get sent back as well.
And I suppose the stuff you're selling on there, outside of leggings and a jump and like, cardigans and stuff, the clothes are going to fit on the person differently. So what looks like in the picture, they might go, I really like the picture, but it may not necessarily be the same in terms of the cut of the clothing will be suitable, or they're happy with it in terms of their own figure. It could be a number of things, but yeah. And also don't forget that, and this goes for men's clothing as well, people might only want something that's more high fashion for the night. They might go out to an event and wear it once and then send it back. There's always that as well, isn't there?
Yeah, hence why they get returns smelling of different types of perfume as well.
Yeah.
And you've got to hang that out to dry and figure out whether you can actually clean it, wash it, and resell it or not. Usually the case, probably not.
Yeah.
It's a frustrating situation. I don't really sound very positive about it, do I? But
no, look, the fact is you're in a challenging niche, right? But if you can get it right, you win. Because there's a side of it is that because there's a bit of a moat around it, people don't want the smoke. Therefore, the people that go and do it, it's the same with selling a complex product that needs a lot of, what's the word for it? That is, say, very, very technical. So it's very difficult to provide customer support, or it needs certain certification, or it needs to be FDA approved with something special. Those kind of moats are helpful for those people because there's less competitors in the market.
Yeah, absolutely. With e-com sites, we've had a lot of runs on. I want to say runs in the sense where you hear about websites that do silly revenue off the back of big influencers. I'll give you an example. When we were selling shoes, we had a website for that on Shopify as well. We had a pair of slippers in, sliders, sorry, I should say. And this is our first ever actual interaction with driving traffic from influencers. This is about 2015 now. And turned out this particular brand, another particular brand, had collaborated with an influencer from The Only Way is Essex.
Yeah.
And that lady, the influencer, has now took a picture of her toenails and the slider on her phone and put it up on Instagram. I've got no clue about any of this, and all of a sudden, it was a Thursday evening, the phone's going off. Like, you know, the Shopify icon notification. Ping, 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 ping. What's going on here? This isn't normal. Right? This particular slider that we had in stock, which was exactly the same as the one that the ladies want, but for a different brand, is literally just selling out like mad.
Yep.
So I've text my friend that worked with us, Chelsea, and I said, "What's going on here? Because like, I don't know if it's a scam or something. You know, something's going on. We're just selling out." And she's like, "Hang on, come back an hour later and sent me a screenshot of this particular person was just going to put it up on Instagram." And what happened here now was somebody else, a normal person, has gone into the comments and wrote, "It's cheaper at," and our company was called Tuesdays at the time, at Tuesdays, Adidas at it. And because of that, people just spun through, gone onto our site, and literally sold us out within a couple of hours. Wow, this is crazy. I got into work Friday morning, the phone's going off the hook. People ask, "When are you getting the sliders back in? When are you getting them back in stock?" Panic, I don't know what to do with it. Call the supplier up. I says, "Have you got any more stock?" He goes, "We've got this amount." I says, "I'll take the lot. When are you expecting more on this day?" Okay, that's fine. Go into the website, change the title, put in pre-orders only, and that whole weekend, I'll tell you what, we did all right that weekend. They were just pinging away on pre-orders as well. So that was our first ever experience with influencers and what they can do. Then 2018, I think, 2019, I can't remember actually, but similar scenario happened on Mode and More, so that's our fast fashion brand.
Yeah.
A lady's wearing a play suit in a particular print, and she's worn it on Love Island for another brand. We just happen to have had it in stock at a higher price, and it's on the front page of our site. Bang, off we go again. It's like history just repeated itself. It was going absolutely bonkers because somebody's gone at us in the comments on Instagram, and even though we're higher price and coming up number one on Google, it's just going bonkers again.
Yeah.
Another time was there was a TV show on BBC. It was a TV show. I can't remember what it was. It was for teenagers or something. And again, there was another sort of celebrity influencer on there hosting. She was wearing a particular top. Again, we just happened to have had that same exact pattern in stock. The funny part was the lady fell over on stage, fell into like a hole or something, and it was a talking point, and it ended up on Daily Mail. Daily Mail then talked about the clothes she was wearing, and we just happened to be coming up number one on Google Ads for our shopping, and the same scenario, we completely ran out of stock. So we've had quite a few stints on influencer marketing.
How long does those stints last? So how long does they last for? I mean, when you say a spike, let's just say you got 600 units in stock, and then you blow through that in 48 hours. By the time you reordered, is the buzz still there to keep selling them through? No, that's what I thought. So it really just flushes out current stock, and then when you're out of stock, it's the window is so small.
So what was that? I missed that.
Yes. Oh, so what I'm saying is that these windows with influencers, they say what you've mentioned, 3 different stories there. Really, this only works when you're in stock, because by the time you've reordered, the window's gone, the buzz is gone, people moved on, days have gone past, and that's how quick these rushes can be. Yeah,
they last about 48 hours.
That's what I'm saying. It's like a flash sale. Yeah.
I don't know what it's like now because we haven't done it in a while. What we found was getting a group of micro influencers that work well on e-com sites, and you're making a lot of noise together. In fact, I think on the fashion side of things, it was one of those influencers that then spun off. So what happens is, okay, you've got an influencer, a major one, that's on TV, right? That's wearing your garment. You then get noticed by other influencers. Then you've got to start doing influencer check. And it just starts to go on and on. It's rabbit holes after rabbit holes. But it's a lot of noise. It's just noise upon noise upon noise. And eventually from that, we then got Debenhams knocking on the door saying, we want your brand in our stores as a concession. And we were like, wow, Debenhams, wow. And this is long before they were about to shut down. So that was a big rush for us. And we had a meeting with them and everything. But at the end of it all, I think they wanted like £500,000 worth of stock per year in their stores before they could even give us any data of what did work and which area worked. So we're like,
they'll bankrupt you. Alongside the payment terms, anyway. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't pay attention to the high street, but isn't Debenhams gone down anyway? They're gone now. They went about 18 months ago.
This is
that's how much attention I pay out in the real world. As we land the podcast, right? Where's the future going for you now? You're still going to carry on scaling in the same direction? You're doing 7 figures now. You worked out the returns thing. You make a profit. But is there other stuff that you're planning to do in the future?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this year's been the hardest year since we've been in business. That's the honest truth. People probably don't want to hear it, but come February.
No, this is what it's about. We talk real shit here. It's just like all this bullshit about selling on Amazon is fucking amazing. Da 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 da. It's amazing if you know what you're fucking doing and you've got grit and determination. Let's just keep it 100. You know.
Yeah. February when the gas bills kicked in, we felt the pinch. So this year's been financially been the toughest year for us, and it's not just us; it's everyone across the board. So even, for example, the guy that makes the labels, even he's complaining. You know, I'm not making enough labels for other clothing brands. What's going on? So everyone's feeling the pinch. So it's time to have a little pivot because we've now landed ourselves onto a platform with a lot of experience, and I'd say we've probably done the hard yards already. So it's time to give other categories a chance as well. Hence the trip to China. We will still do a bit of clothing. We've got the winter that's already going to roll up, so we're not stopping with that. We're reaching out into the US marketplace with some kids stuff in the next probably six to 8 weeks. Stock's just landing in right now, ready for September. So we'll have a run with that. Let's see where the other categories take us. I'm not going to say this is going to work because, you know, you can never really forecast anything.
No one's got a crystal ball.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. It's literally give it a punt, see where it goes, start launching new brands, and whatever does work, sort of run with it, you know.
Cool.
It's not
So if people want to reach out, what's the best way to get in contact with you?
Instagram, because LinkedIn's boring. Adam_Jago. If anyone ever wants to reach out, just give it a shout.
Excellent, guys. Thank you.
Christmas.
Oh yeah, I haven't announced that yet, but we'll be announcing that very soon. Everyone's going to need a little break after the tail end of Q4, them last few weeks. So we'll talk about the Christmas party in the future. But no, thank you for joining us today, being candid, you know, sharing information. It is a tough niche, and people will take some great insights from this. Sharon will be up next. I'll see you again next week. Take care of yourself and your family. Much love, and I'll see you again soon.